What's up, guys? Jay here with Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with another EDH deck tech. Today's deck is for this lovely dragon right here, Dragonlord Silumgar. He's a 6-cost blue and black dragon. He's a 3/5 flyer with Death Touch, so that's pretty cool. And when he enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature or planeswalker for as long as you control him. So he's pretty cool. I like him a lot. I like him especially because he wears the corpse of the former Khan of the Sultai, Tassiger. He wears his corpse around his neck like a piece of jewelry. I don't know if you could really see it, but he's got his corpse on a necklace. So he's a pretty hardcore dragon, if you ask me. But this deck's basically built all around stealing things. Stealing your opponent's creatures, their spells, their whatever. So, yeah, that's the theme that I went with the deck. Steal all the things with Silumgar. So, that's my general, Dragonlord Silumgar. First up, we'll take a look at my land base for this deck. Pretty basic with it just being 2 colors. We have a Temple of Deceit, a Underground River, Watery Grave, Draw Isle Refuge, Salt Marsh, Secluded Glen, Dark Slick Shores, Tainted Isle, Dreadship Reef, Dimir Aqueduct, Dimir Gilgate, Dismal Backwater, Drowned Catacomb, Frostmarsh. So those are all my lands that produce both my colors. Next are my utility lands. We have Dust Bowl to kill those pesky non-basic lands my opponents have. Reliquary Tower for that no maximum hand size. Halimar Depths for that top 3 card filter. Bajuka Bog for some graveyard hate. Mirren the Moaning Well for a sacrifice outlet that will gain me some life. And Academy Ruins to recur artifacts. Then the rest we just fill out with basics. I have 9 of each. I have 9 islands and 9 swamps. So pretty basic land base, nothing too crazy. Next up, we'll take a look at my artifacts and enchantments. First up, we'll take a look at the artifacts that I run. First up is Ashnod's Altar, a free sack outlet that nets me 2 colorless mana, so that's pretty nice, especially if I use opponents' creatures that I steal. Vidalcan Shackles for some creature thievery, gain control of a creature with power less than or equal to the number of islands I control. Nim Deathmantle, I pretty much put this in every single one of my decks now. It's just really good creature recursion if you ask me. If a creature on your side of the board dies, you can pay 4 to get it right back and attach Nim Deathmantle to it right away. Conjurer's Closet to flicker out creatures with enter the battlefield effects. Whip of Erebos to give my team lifelink and the ability to resurrect a creature for 2 and 2 black. And it gets haste and then it gets exiled if it would leave play or if it would go to the end of my turn. So if I need a big nasty threat out of my yard right away, I can use that. Thran Dynamo, just a mana rock that taps for 3. Helm of Possession, kind of similar to the Shackles, but I have to sack a dude to gain control of a dude as long as I control this and as long as it remains tapped. So kind of similar to the Shackles, more creature thievery. Gilded Lotus, nice mana rock that taps for 3 of any one color for 5. Skull of Orm, I do run quite a few enchantments in this deck, as you'll see in a minute, so this is a pretty cool card. It allows me to recur my enchantments from my graveyard. Another mana rock here, and Worn Powerstone, taps for 2, comes into play tapped. Carnage Altar for another sack outlet that draws me cards. And Soul Ring. Everybody knows what Soul Ring does and why it's good. So those are my artifacts. Next up, we'll take a look at my enchantment package. which the majority of it is creature thievery, and that is true for this first card here, Treachery, which is a really good card. Basically, when you cast this, you just cast it for free because it lets you untap up to 5 lands when you cast it. And you control enchanted creature, so it's essentially a free give me your creature spell. Confiscate, similar to that, except you enchant it to any permanent and you control that permanent. Same here with Volition Reigns, except that this will untap the permanent if it is tapped when you put this on it. So another way to steal a straight up permanent. Persuasion, just a 5-cost aura that steals a creature. Dictate of Erebos, basically Grave Pact with Flash. Mind Control, just another 5-cost give me your guy aura. Here's another Incorrupted Conscience, give me your guy and give him Infect, so that's pretty cool. Soul Ransom, another give me your guy aura, but the opponent can discard 2 cards to have me sacrifice this, and then I draw 2 cards. Doesn't necessarily have to be the opponent that I stole the creature from. It could be any opponent, but it's a cool little card. I can steal their guy if they really want it back. They can pitch 2 cards and let me draw 2 cards to get their guy back. Grave Pact, everybody knows what that does. It's very nice. Control Magic, another give me your guy spell for 2 and 2 blue instead of most of them that cost 3 and 2 blue. Phyrexian Arena for some card draw on my upkeep every turn. Phyrexian Reclamation for some creature recursion by paying 2 and 2 life. Palace Siege for some more creature recursion because 100% of the time I will choose cons on this to get the return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand on your upkeep every turn. I will never choose dragons on this card. Definitely not in EDH anyways. But yeah, there's some more creature recursion there. And Attrition, a sacrifice outlet that lets me destroy non-black creatures. So if I steal one of my opponent's creatures, use it to Attrition and kill another one of their creatures, that's pretty nice. Alright, so those are my artifacts and enchantments. Next up, we'll take a look at my instants and sorceries. We'll look at the instants first. First up is Memory Plunder. Basically lets you rip an instant or sorcery out of an opponent's graveyard and cast it for free. So that's pretty cool. You could be tricky with that. You could cast like a board wipe out of their graveyard when they go to attack you and maybe try to win the game or whatnot. It's a very versatile card. Next up is Desertion. A 5-cost counterspell that makes it so that if I counter an artifact or a creature with this, that spell gets put into play under my control. So I'm not a huge fan of counterspells. I honestly think they're kind of lame. But this particular spell, it does cost 5, so it's not like an overly powerful and cheap counterspell. But it did really fit the theme of stealing my opponent's things, which is like what Silumgar likes. So this is the only counterspell in the deck, but I felt like it fit in quite well into the theme of the deck. Ghostly Flicker to flicker out my creatures and retrigger enter the battlefield abilities. You can also target artifacts and lands with this. What's really cool about this is if you steal something with Silumgar and then you target Silumgar and the creature you just stole with him, the creature that you stole is going to come back into play under your control because that's what the card says, and then when Silumgar comes back in, you can steal another creature. Then we have Cyclonic Rift. Most of the time I'll overload this to bounce each non-land permanent I don't control to its owner's hand, so it's kind of like a blue sweeper. But if you need a little spot, permanent bouncing, this will do the job for you as well. And Commandeer, which is a really nice card. Basically, you can cast it for 7, or you can exile 2 blue cards from your hand rather than pay its cost. And it basically lets you gain control of a spell, a non-creature spell that's on the stack, and, you know, you essentially steal it from your opponent as they're casting it. So, you know, if they try to cast like an X red burn spell on you, you can commandeer it and shoot it back at them. Alright, those are my instants. Next we'll look at my sorceries. Next is Psychic Intrusion, a 5-cost sorcery that lets you look at your opponent's hand and you choose a non-land card from their hand or their graveyard, and you can cast it, or you choose a card like that, exile it, and then as long as it remains exiled, you can cast it and spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. So it's a pretty cool card. Fit into the theme pretty well of Silumgar, of stealing things. Here is Rite of Replication. Get a copy of a guy onto the field, and if I kick it, I get 5 copies of that guy, so that's pretty sweet. Here's Stolen Identity. 6-cost sorcery that lets me put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of a artifact or a creature. And then I can cipher this onto one of my creatures, so basically the creature that has this ciphered onto it, whenever that creature hits a player, I get to cast a copy of this without paying its mana cost. So that's pretty nice. You know, if you know you can consistently go in with a guy, you can just repeatedly get copies of anything, any artifact or creature on the board. And then my 2 sweepers, Black Sun Zenith, 2 black and X to put X -1/-1 counters on all creatures. And it gets shuffled into my deck. And then Crux of Fate, destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-dragon creatures. Probably 9 times out of 10 I'll pick destroy all non-dragon creatures because my general is a dragon. So best case scenario, I'll wipe the board except my own general. Alright, so those are my instants and sorceries. Next we'll look at my Planeswalkers that I run. First up is Ob Nixilis of the Black Oath. 5-cost black Planeswalker that comes in with 3 loyalty. His first 2 abilities are not bad. His +2 is kind of meh. His -2 is not bad, getting a 5/5 flyer and losing 2 life. But mainly I use him for his ultimate in this deck of basically getting a static Disciple of Bolas on the board. I get an emblem where I can pay 2 and sack a guy to gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So it's mainly why I have him in here. You know, use my opponent's creatures to that emblem to gain life and draw cards. And then we have Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. He lets me either exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library, then I can -X to resurrect a creature that I exiled with him with converted mana cost X or less. Actually, no, just converted mana cost X that I've exiled with him, and it gets put onto the battlefield under my control. And it's also a nightmare in addition to its other types. Then his ultimate is exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards, so he's pretty nice. Or she. I actually think it's a she. I think Ashiok's a female. Correct me if I'm wrong. Magic lore connoisseurs. Alright, and lastly, we're going to take a look at my creatures. So first up we have Geth, Lord of the Vault, a 5/5 with Intimidate for 6, where I can pay 1 black and X to put an artifact or creature card with converted mana cost X from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under my control tapped, and then that opponent mills that many cards off the top of their deck, so he's pretty nice. Dimir Doppelganger basically lets me exile a creature from a graveyard, and then this becomes a copy of that creature. Nightveil Spectre. When he hits a player, I get to exile the top card of their library, and then I can play cards exiled with him. So he fits in very well to the steal all your stuff theme. Stronghold Assassin, a sack outlet that lets me destroy target non-black creature, so kind of like attrition on a body. So, you know, I can steal a creature, use that creature to the assassin to kill another creature, so I've just, you know, killed 2 of your creatures. Clever Impersonator basically will clone any permanent, any non-land permanent that's on the battlefield, so he's very, very nice. Then we have just Clone. Clones any creature on the board. Cryptghast, a 2/2 with Extort that doubles all the mana that I get from Swamp, so he's really just there for some nice mana doubling. Evil Twin, another clone, where it lets you pay a blue and a black and tap him to destroy the creature that he's cloned of. So that's kind of cool. You know, so if I drop him and clone my, opponent's, Elesh Norn, then I can pay a blue and a black, tap that to destroy their Elesh Norn. Lazav, Dimir Mastermind, he's pretty nice. He's got hexproof, so he's pretty hard to kill. But whenever a creature is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you can have Lazav become a copy of that creature, except he retains his name and his creature types, I believe. It's legendary in addition to its other types, okay, and gains hexproof in this ability. So basically he retains his name and his status. He just becomes a copy of everything else of the creature that he copies. So he's pretty cool. Here's Phyrexian Metamorph. I really like that Phyrexian blue, so you can potentially pay him for 3 colorless and 2 life. But he'll clone any creature or artifact on the board, so he's pretty nice. Here we got Grimgrin Corpseborn, a 5/5/4/5 that enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step, which may seem kind of terrible, but you get to sacrifice another creature to untap him and put a +1/+1 counter on him. And then whenever he attacks, you get to destroy target creature defending player controls and then put a +1/+1 counter on him. So he's very nice in this deck. If I steal one of my opponent's creatures, I can use that creature to sacrifice to him, untap him, make him bigger, attack with him, destroy one of their dudes, make him bigger, and just keep stealing things and feeding them to him, basically. Hell's Caretaker, some very nice creature recursion that lets you tap him and sacrifice a creature on your upkeep to resurrect any creature out of your graveyard straight to the battlefield. So he's pretty cool. Phyrexian Delver, basically a reanimate on a 3/2 body, so he's very nice. Lord of the Void, a 7/7 flyer for 7, where when he hits a player, they exile the top 7 cards of their deck, and then I get to put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield under my control. More creature thievery. Here's Sakashima the Imposter, another clone that is kind of like Lazav, where he retains his name and such, but he also has an ability where you can pay 2 and 2 blue to return him to your hand at end of turn. So, if your opponent plays something more enticing that you want to clone, you can bounce him, recast him, and clone that instead. Here's Shieldred Whispering One, a 6/6 Swamp Walk beater that allows you to resurrect any creature out of your graveyard right onto the battlefield on your upkeep. And then every opponent's upkeep, they have to sacrifice a guy. So Shieldred's like a black staple. I play her in pretty much every single deck that I have that's got black. Here's Bloodgift Demon, a 5/4 flyer for 5 that's basically a Phyrexian Arena on a body. Although you can target players with this. So, if one of your opponents is at 1 life, you can target them with this to kill them if you like, but 9 times out of 10 I'll be targeting myself for the card draw. Grave Titan, a 6/6 beater with Death Touch that just spits out 2/2 zombies like it's going out of style. He's just a token generating machine. Here's Sepulchral Primordial. He's just a really fun card. A 5/4 Intimidate for 7. And when he enters the battlefield, you get to rip a creature card out of every opponent's graveyard and put it into play under your control. So if you have 3 opponents, if you're playing a 4-way game, you get to rip 3 creatures, 1 out of each opponent's graveyard, and you get it on the board. Deadeye Navigator, this guy is bonkers. If you're playing blue, play this guy. He's just insane. Whenever he's bonded with another creature, both those creatures have, you can pay 1 and a blue to blink it out, essentially. Just bonkers to re-trigger enter the battlefield effects. His Kiga the Tidestar, a 5/5 flyer for 6. When he dies, you gain control of target creature, so I do have quite a few sacrifice outlets in this deck to kill him off, to gain control of things, and then I have some, creature recursion to get him back and repeat that process. Here we have Sidisi Undead Vizier, a 4/6 Death Touch for 5 with exploit, so when it comes in you can sacrifice a guy, and when you exploit a creature with this, you demonic tutor, basically. So, very nice. And lastly, Ghoul Caller Jissa, a 5-cost 3/4 that lets you pay a black and tapper to sacrifice another creature, and then you get X 2/2 black zombies, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So, very nice card to have when I'm dumping my opponent's creatures into this to get 2/2 black zombie tokens. Alright, so that's it, guys. That's the deck. Hope you enjoyed it. So that concludes my Dragonlord Silumgar EDH deck tech. It's a deck that I just recently finished, so I'm pretty excited to play it and test it out and see how it fares. I think it'll be a pretty fun deck to play. So let me know what you guys think of the deck. If there's cards that you would add in or cards that you would take out. Just leave me your comments and suggestions. I really do love to read them. So yeah, this has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming. Again, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And, stay tuned to our channel for future videos. Thanks a lot for watching.